Right, so a question I get asked a lot is around the hiring of your first employee. When to do it, how to afford it, and which role to recruit for first. So if these are the questions that are keeping you awake at night, then this video today is for you. Today we're going to start at the very beginning, and that is what needs to be in place behind the scenes before you start hiring. What needs to be done in terms of your organizational chart so that you know what bums need to be on what seats, and that will then help us to decide which roles to recruit for first. And because this goes hand in hand with when to start recruiting, we'll also look at that as well. And then finally, we'll look at how you're actually going to afford to do this, because that's, one of the key factors. So let's start from the very beginning. What do you need to have in place behind the scenes before you start hiring for your first employee? So an entrepreneur's business journey is really split into three key stages. So that is the profitable job phase, the profitable business phase, and the profitable investment phase. Making that very first hire fits in that space in between the profitable job and the profitable business. Because the idea is to take some of the work off your plate to free you up so that you can go on and make more sales in the business, to grow the business, and the cycle keeps on going. Now, it can be really scary making that first hire. We've all been through it. I've been through it. We've all had to do it. It can be an absolute HR minefield, and you have to know what awards that you're going to be using, if they even apply to you. You need to make sure the person is the right fit. There's all sorts of things to worry about when hiring your first employee. What I have found to work the best, and what I think you really need to focus on, is does the person have the right personality fit for your business? Don't get caught up in their CV. You can always train them to do what you want them to be doing, but you can't train a personality into them. As a side note, as a little bit of a backstory, I made this catastrophic mistake in my own business and really live to regret it. So I hired a new PA, and she had the best CV on the planet. She had ATO experience, like a number of years in the ATO. She was a bit older, so she was bringing life experience to the table as well. And she presented really well, which is what I wanted because she was client facing. So the real thing that really caught my eye here though was her CV, and it was that ATO experience that I fixated on, because I really wanted somebody who knew their systems and their processes, because this job role would be dealing with the ATO. To begin with, she was absolutely fine, but then the mood swings started in around about month 3.5 to 4. So for the first 3 months, everything went swimmingly, and things started to change in about that month 3.5 to 4. So the mood swings started. Then she started to refuse to do things like binding documents because she had a degree and she felt it was beneath her. Then she started saying that she wasn't going to be doing any scanning or filing for the same reason. Then she started saying that she wasn't going to do the dishes, not even her own dishes. Not only that, I started getting complaints from my clients because she'd been rude or snappy with them. The final straw came over the dishes. So I came in over one weekend because I had a meeting offsite on the Monday morning. So I came in over the weekend to pick up everything I needed, and I found dirty dishes all over the place. So I left a note in a neutral place in the office, because I didn't want to pick on anybody, to say that could you just make sure that if nothing else on a Friday afternoon, the dishes are done so we don't have bugs and creepy crawlies coming in over the weekend. Well, first thing Monday morning, I got a text message to say that she felt that I was being unfair in terms of the note that I had left, and that as we were an egalitarian office, she felt that everybody should be doing their own dishes, which, given that most of the dishes were her dishes, I did feel it was a little bit rich. Just as a side note here, I at no stage had actually said that this was an egalitarian environment. I do appreciate everybody's feedback, but it wasn't something that at that point in time I had really considered in terms of our culture. But anyway, before I had a chance to respond to that text message, I had another one. Now, in this text message, she went on to say that if I was really going to push this issue over the dishes, then she would resign. So I accepted. Lesson number 1, never let an employee blackmail you. Now, I made her work out her notice period because we really needed to have somebody in her job role while we recruited for somebody else. And during that time, it was like living with Jekyll and Hyde. She abused me, she abused our other staff, she bullied us, she was rude to clients, she was rude to customers. It really did get to the point where I really wondered why I'd bothered keeping her on for the notice period. Finally, she left. Now the next night, her notice period ran out on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something, so we literally all came into the office the next day, and it was like this massive weight had been lifted. People were laughing, they were joking around. It was like a completely different atmosphere. It was actually fun to be in. So lesson learned. Don't recruit just on the CV. In a small environment, the personality is everything, because a toxic personality will drain your culture and your morale so quickly without you realizing it. Right, so what did I learn from this though? Well, first things first is I actually extended our probationary period from 3 months to 6 months because she really noticeably dropped off in month 4 when she clearly relaxed after knowing she got through her probationary period. I now almost exclusively hire on personality. Now, there are a couple of things I just need to say to that. We are a technical environment, so in the technical roles, I do expect our team to have a certain degree of competency based on their experience. So whilst I do keep an eye on this and I do look at it, it is not something that I fixate on. It's something that I expect from them and wherever they're at in their career. What I really like to focus on is their personality and how it will fit into our team. They need to work what I call above the line. Now, when they're above the line, they are accountable for their actions and their work. They take responsibility for doing things, and they take ownership of the tasks that they're presented with or the tasks that are needed to be done to make the business move forward towards its strategic goals. Nearly all of this is driven by our vision, mission, and culture of the business. Now, your vision is where you want the business to be in, say, 3 to 5 years. Your mission is how you're going to get there. And your culture is what are the values, what are the traits, what are the behaviors that you and your team are going to exhibit both towards one another and towards your clients while you're doing your work. These are things which you need to be absolutely clear about and have documented either in a video or on a piece of paper somewhere, because you're going to be using them as a yardstick against which you're comparing the performance of your team. And the other thing you really need to have in place before you make your first hire are some systems and processes. Now, as a solopreneur, you probably have got things that you do in a very systemized way because you have learned to do it the quickest, most efficient way possible to get the most out of your day. However, you probably don't have it written down or videoed or somewhere where you can hand it straight over to a new recruit and say, here, go learn. This is what I expect from you. This is how I want you to do it. The problem with this is that they either won't perform to their best ability, and so you'll think that they're not doing a particularly good job, or they'll come up with their own system and process which doesn't fit with what you want the business to be doing. Now, before I go on here, I'm not talking about being dictatorial in your management style, because having a degree of feedback, whether it be good or bad, is always a good thing, because at the end of the day, a fresh pair of eyes coming in might actually see a better way to actually do that particular process, and you need to be open to that. However, you do need to have them learn how to do it in the first place. You just need to be able to balance the two. Now, the next step's a bit more interesting because it's about knowing who to employ first. And to do this, you really need to know what your organizational chart looks like. There are generally 7 to 8 different functions in every business, no matter what its size. There are a couple of optional ones depending on the industry that you are in and what it is that your business is actually doing. I will run through these functions pretty quickly today because the purpose of this is to actually look at what the functions are, not at what they do. So we have finance, sales and marketing, which could be split into 2, customer service, operations, admin and business planning, IT and legal. They are your core functions of the business. So the optional ones are research and development, production, distribution, and purchasing. Now, if you're like every other small business owner out there, you are probably wearing one, if not all of the hats in this organizational chart, which is perfectly normal for a small business. However, for you to grow, you need to start handing some of these hats over. Let's just run the numbers on that theory, just in case you're still really clinging on to the idea of holding on to as many hats as humanly possible. So each hat represents one function in your business. One function in your business is at least one person. So if we say one person is 100%, that means that with 7 functions in your business, that's 700%. If you are wearing every hat in the business, that means that you are expecting yourself to do 700% every single day, every week of the year, which is just not humanly possible. And if you are doing it right now, it's not sustainable. You will burn out. So you need to be able to delegate some of this work to somebody else. So which functions are actually recruited for first? Well, there's no real hard and fast rule. It really does depend on your business and your skill set. However, as a general rule of thumb, the ones we normally see going out first are finance and admin. I should make it clear here that we're not necessarily talking about going from 0 employees to 7 full-time employees overnight. You can outsource, use contractors, have casuals, whatever it takes to actually delegate some of the work off your plate. And crucially, make it affordable, which becomes the real crunch point here. When should you be recruiting for that elusive first employee? Well, there's no hard and fast rule on this particular one because it really does come down to your business and your skill set. However, I will say that it is, or it needs to be, much earlier than you think it should be. I have made this particular mistake myself, and trust me when I say all it does is hinder growth and make you more stressed out, which in turn hinders the growth even more. Basically, as soon as you have the cash flow or the promise of some cash flow, you need to go out and start recruiting for your first employee. And all you need to do is rinse and repeat. But how do you actually afford to do it? Because at the end of the day, you actually have to pay them. Well, a strategy that we use frequently with our clients is the use of bank accounts as buckets. And by this I mean we use different bank accounts to manage different aspects of the business. So in this instance, we would set up another bank account to be used to pay a new employee as soon as we became aware that we needed to have another employee. This might be 6 months ahead of actually employing them. Now, you don't need to set up a separate bucket for every separate employee. This is just one bucket for all employee salaries to go into. What we then do is have our clients pay into the bucket immediately, and thus they start saving for the new employees straight away. The reason we do it like this is because when a new employee starts, there's often a period of downtime when they first start as they're being trained and they're coming on board with the new way of doing everything. During this time, we find that revenue drops. By having the money sitting there in the bank account ready to go, takes some of the pressure off when they first come on board so that you're not worrying about cash flow while also trying to train them in what they're doing. This strategy works particularly well with full-time employees and when they're being on board, but you can use it for all your casuals or contractors or anything like that as well to manage how much you're actually spending on them. So there we have it, everything that you need to know on how to hire a first employee. We have got what you need to do behind the scenes before you recruit, what you need to do to work out who to recruit first, when to recruit them, and how you're going to afford to recruit them. I hope you found this video useful, and I will catch you in the next one.